Good morning, everyone. Today I will be discussing about the internet use in the Philippines. Early morning of March 29, 1994 at 1:15, Benji Tan established the Philippines' first connection to the internet at a PLDT network center in Makati City. He then posted the first short message to the Usenet news group soc.culture.filipino that a link is already live. To quote, as of March 29, 1994, at 1:15 a.m. Philippine time, unfortunately 2 days late due to slight technical difficulties, the Philippines was finally connected to the internet via Sprint link. Although some companies established their own private connections to the internet in the early 1990s, it was until 1994 that the Philippines obtained its first permanent public connection. The Philippine Network Foundation, or the PHNet, achieved the nation's first internet via a 64 kilobyte link to Sprint in the United States of America. But it was definitely a beginning. Today, no one can deny that 2 decades down the road, the internet is now an integral part of Philippine society. So, who can access online back then? The Social Weather Survey's data on household facilities from 1997 to 2010 shows that computer ownership and access to internet in the household is generally low and hardly changed until the last 3 years, when it reached double-digit levels. Data on computer ownership is an important measure of internet use because computers have long been the only device needed to access the internet. As shown in Table 1, ownership of computer in the household has ranged from 3% in 1997 to 7% in 2007, before increasing to 10% in 2008, 11% in 2009, and 12% in 2010. In absolute terms, the proportions of households with computers have increased from about 414,000 in 1997, out of the projected 12.8 million households, to 2.1 million in 2010, out of the projected 18.8 million households. Computer penetration in the household has always been highest in NCR, in urban areas, and among middle to upper classes ABC. As of 2010, households in Metro Manila are twice more likely than households in the provincial areas to own a computer. By local, computer ownership is 3 times more in urban households than in rural households. The disparity in access to computer is more noticeable across socio-economic class. 43% of households in classes ABC own a computer, twice than the combined percentage of households in classes D and E who also own a computer. Table 2 shows that access to internet in the household is even lower than computer ownership. The percentage of households with internet connection have ranged from 1% to 3% between 1998 and 2007, before it increased to 4% in 2008 and 2009, and to 6% in 2010. These correspond to an increase from 230,000 households in 1998 out of the projected 14.4 million households to 1.3 million households in 2010 out of the projected 18.8 million households. From 1998 to 2010, households with internet connection in NCR have ranged from 7% to 18%. In provincial areas, though internet penetration remains well below 10%, internet penetration in urban households has gradually increased from 3% in 1998 to 10% in 2010. But in the rural areas, internet access was zero until in 2006. By socioeconomic class, internet penetration among households in classes ABC has ranged from 12% to 29% in contrast to, to among households in Class D where it ranged between 1% and 6% and among Class E where internet penetration was zero until 2009. The internet has come a long way in the Philippines since its first inception in 1994. Its growing uses and functionalities have brought more attention to its online users over the past years. New applications have become available, captured a growing appetite of many Filipinos, resulting in its growing number of internet users. In a recent finding, the Philippines was ranked as one of the highest internet users in all of Asia Pacific. As per the survey from Statista Research Department published on August 12, 2021, from 2017 to 2021, and forecasted from year 2022 to 2026. As you can see, each year has increased more than 1% of internet users in the Philippines. And by 2026, about 77.44% of population are using the internet. Now, how about the internet consumption during the COVID-19 pandemic in the Philippines? The COVID-19 pandemic has changed the Filipinos' consumption behavior in the past year. Consumers have spent more time online than ever before as lockdown has been implemented nationwide. The average spent online for personal use during the pandemic was approximately 5 hours compared to only around 4 hours before the onslaught of the COVID-19 pandemic. The internet sector that mostly gained from this change was the e-commerce sector. According to a survey conducted on the usage of e-commerce in the Philippines, approximately 2% of the respondents stated increasing their usage of e-commerce platforms during the COVID-19 pandemic. Previously, the surveyed respondents' usage was only around percent, and it was projected that almost 2% would still most likely use e-commerce platforms after the pandemic. That's all for my report, and we'll proceed to our next reporter. Thank you so much for listening.